Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Kerr. I'm a principal product manager here at GitLab, focused on security, compliance, and how GitLab can work with our partners and integration teams. And today, I'm going to be walking you through an example of how to integrate Jscrambler with GitLab. Jscrambler allows you to protect your client-side application code at runtime against tampering and reverse engineering. These are two threats that are especially important if you're developing applications that handle sensitive data or perform critical operations. So I'm here on this GitLab repository where I have a very simple application, which is an HTML5 racing game. I have the full source code of this app on my local machine, and I've started a local server just to show you what the app looks like. So heading back to my browser, I have the application running here. And you can see that it's a simple HTML5 game. And what you're doing is running laps around a track on a sports car while trying to avoid traffic. There's really not much else to it. And other than the fact that I'm probably not the best racer out there, it's straightforward. But let's stop here for a second and open up our debugger just to show you how easy it is to go through the source code of the application. I can easily find the JavaScript logic behind this game, and there's nothing stopping me from changing any of these values if I like. And while this is just a trivial game as an example, the same principle applies to banking applications, healthcare platforms, or any other app that runs on a client's device, for example. JavaScript is sent to the browser as plain text, and this helps attackers find new way to launch attacks like data exfiltration or finding sensitive business logic inside the application. All right, let's jump into the Jscrambler protected web app and get started with our tutorial. I'll open up one of my apps here, and now let's move to the right side of the screen where we have all these different protection templates. Think of these as cocktails of different transformations you can use to protect your source code. Things like obfuscation, different types of locks you can use, and runtime protection templates like self-defending. This specific template includes obfuscation, plus anti-tampering and anti-debugging techniques to protect our code at runtime. So let's pick this one. Now, we just have to go up here to download a JSON file with the configurations we need for the rest of this tutorial. You could also create this file from scratch, but using the web app makes it much easier. Now, I'll place this file at the root of my project here and rename it to .jscrambler.rc. As you can see, this file also includes my unique access and secret keys, so I'll store them as GitLab environment variables to keep them secure. You should always do this to avoid accidentally exposing those keys. I'll go ahead and add the first one here, which is the access key. And copy the value from the config file. And that one's done. Now, I'll just repeat the same steps for the secret key. All right, now all that's left to do is delete these lines from the config file and save it. Next, let's create our GitLab CI YAML file. First, we need to define our image and its stages like always. But in this case, we will be adding a new protect stage, which I will explain in a minute. First, let's add the details of our build job, which are fairly straightforward. It runs the npm run build command, which will build the app in production mode and output the results to a folder named build. It will also make this build folder available as a GitLab CI artifact for the next step. And this next step is our protection job, which is a bit more complex. First, it's installing the Jscrambler npm package, although you might want to install one of Jscrambler's plugins for Webpack or Gulp, for example, depending on your own project. In any case, our job executes Jscrambler, which will protect the contents of the build folder, loading our access and secret keys, and placing the protection output into the same build folder. This is also made available as a GitLab CI artifact for us to use later on a deploy job, for instance. But in my case, I'm ready to commit these changes and see them in action on my GitLab CI instance. So let me just quickly make that commit. And moving over to GitLab again, I'll go ahead and check the pipelines. So the build job is running right now. And now the protect job kicks in. So this job is calling the Jscrambler API and using the config file with all the transformations of the self-defending protection template. So the protect job succeeded, and I can actually see here what is called my protection ID. We'll look at that more in a bit. For now, I'll open up my artifacts and run the protected game on my browser. Everything is running as it should. So let me just go ahead and open up the debugger to see the protection in action. All right. Well, right off the bat, I can see that my debugger was paused and the app execution paused. This is the anti-debugging protection by Jscrambler in action. But let me quickly check what the source code looks like. And I can confidently say that this has been, in fact, obfuscated. And while the underlying logic of the app remains the same, this is extremely hard to reverse engineer in all of our JavaScript files. This obfuscation is actually a recommendation from entities like OWASP and NIST, since it makes it much harder for attackers to make up ground when planning or automating attacks. Going back to those anti-debugging features, if I try to resume execution, the call stack starts to grow, and I'm essentially stuck in an infinite loop. If I close the debugger, the app resumes without any issues. One final thing I wanted to show you is the protection history. And this goes back to the protection ID I mentioned earlier. So here I can see all the protections that were made, and I can actually see some pretty interesting details about how my code has changed due to each Jscrambler transformation. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And even though I only scraped the surface of the security features provided by Jscrambler, I'll leave you with these additional features that may be useful in your specific use case. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. For more information, please visit gitlab.com and jscrambler.com. Thank you.